Matthew Perry, the investigation into his death continues on, and 5 arrests have now been made in that, including two doctors, Dr. Salvador Placenia and Dr. Mark Chavez, who were involved in supplying the drug. Also, his personal assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, arrested, and several other individuals as well, including Javina Sangha, otherwise known as the Ketamine Queen. Lots of people involved in enabling the death of Matthew Perry. Joining me to discuss, Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author. Were you surprised at this, at just how much of a ring was kind of surrounding him? And it wasn't just him having a doctor here or there that he kind of got some extra. It seems like there was this is almost like a coordinated effort of they know they got somebody who's got a lot of money who will buy this stuff far higher than the going rate.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised. I have a friend who's a director in Hollywood, and one of the early, messages I got when this came out, she wrote and said, "I see this kind of stuff going on all the time," and it's just tragic. There's so much hype around ketamine right now, and they're even using it. It's being used for anxiety, depression, PTSD, and they're even using it as a treatment for addiction, which is crazy when you consider that ketamine is an addictive drug.
Mhm.
It's a Schedule 3 drug. It can kill you in large doses. And so I think we're looking at something really, immoral and morbid, and the profiteering going on. I'd love to say it surprised me, but it doesn't surprise me.
Let's talk about ketamine itself. I mean, we've been hearing that term quite a bit lately of being used for those sort of purposes. And, when prescribed by a doctor, a lot of people think, okay, well, it must be good.
Yeah.
That's not always the case.
Yeah.
But let's talk about ketamine in general. What does it do? Why is it kind of caught on and is somewhat in vogue right now as being a go-to drug for all those things that you just listed?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a bad attitude about it. I can tell you I tried to be open-minded when we had so much in the press, and I really think that's what we're looking at. We're looking at publicity that started off by somebody who wrote a book about psychedelic drugs basically curing everything. I can't remember the author's name, but it came out about 5 years ago, and I read it. And since then, it's been picked up by the media and gotten so much hype. They're actually calling it a brain vitamin and saying that it can cure all these different mental illnesses, sometimes in only one session. That's nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's an anesthetic. It's been used safely for many years in a clinical setting as an anesthetic, but this basically street use or off-label use, I think, comes with a lot of dangers and pitfalls. The thing that I'm seeing, because it's legal in California and Oregon by mail, and I think probably in all 50 states now. So people are doing these at-home lozenges. So they get, I think, 30 lozenges. I've got 2 or 3 clients right now on that program. It's not through me,
Mhm.
certainly, but they're just signing up online with a doctor. They have a telehealth visit, and then they get, I think it's 30 lozenges in the mail at the beginning of every month. Well, there's no one monitoring. Are they taking the one a day that they're supposed to take, or are they taking 5? Are they taking 10? We don't know. And what are the effects if they take 5 or 10? And I think that's what you saw with Matthew Perry. He took enough to put him into an anesthetic state, basically in a deep sleep, and then was in a hot tub
Yeah.
alone. So there's crazy stuff going on. And I can't say that I'm seeing in my own clients, now this is not a research study, but in my own clients, I'm not seeing any improvement in their mental health symptoms. Sometimes we'll have a session, and in one case, this is happening in a doctor's office where she gets an IV and goes into her ketamine altered consciousness. And then they put an iPad up in front of her, and I talk to her about her therapy issues and relaxing and all these different things while she's under the influence of the drug. And this is what these programs encourage, is that you can meet with your therapist, and then it's considered ketamine therapy. I'm noticing that people feel better when they're under the influence, but when they're not under the influence, they're back to their same old brain. They're still
Mhm.
having the same depression, the same anxiety. It's not curing any of it. So I'm going to have to be convinced by a lot of good firm clinical evidence that we're actually helping people here and not killing people in
Yeah.
some cases.
I mean,
So,
is it being used more as a Band-Aid than anything? Is it being used? I mean, one would go, well, is it less dangerous than alcohol? Which, a
right.
lot of people go to that. But again,
Right.
you do too much of that, that'll kill you
Same
too.
thing. Same thing. Yeah.
And is this an addictive drug? And is it one in which you have to kind of keep amping up the dose as you go along because it's not going to have the same sort of effect?
Yeah, it's not as addictive as an opioid, but
Hmm.
it is addictive. And so a person does have to use it repeatedly. But with someone like Matthew Perry, this guy had been an addict since he was 14 years old. I mean, just had raging polysubstance dependence. I have complete empathy for the guy. I think he did detox like 65 times. He had attended thousands of AA meetings. This guy was just vulnerable. And I wonder, did one of these doctors sell him on the idea that this is legitimate treatment for the fact that you're an addict, without the piece that, you know what, you can become addicted to this too.
Hmm.
And it's of course just like alcohol. People die from alcohol poisoning or cirrhosis all the time.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be seeing more ketamine deaths. I don't know if we're even monitoring the numbers of people that are having Matthew Perry incidents right now, but I'm very concerned about it. And so a lot of people call me asking if I'm supportive of it. Well, if it's legal, if people really want to try it, if it's medically supervised, I'm not going to try and talk them out of it because we don't know.
Hmm.
But my personal belief is we need to be really careful with this. And is it being used as a band-aid? I think so. People who are really legitimately suffering with mental health conditions often want a quick fix.
Hmm.
And sometimes, like in the case of psychosis or schizophrenia, there are pretty quick fixes with antipsychotic medication, and
Sure.
some people are transformed by it. But unfortunately, with so many things, we don't have quick fixes, and I don't think ketamine is going to be it.
Compared to other medications that, have been on the market for quite some time that people have been taking for years and basically need to stay on it. It's not going to change your brain. It's going
Yeah.
to help you while you are on it. What's the difference between ketamine and some of those?
Well, we don't know yet. And again, it's a matter of dosing. If a person is on a little bit of Paxil or Prozac every day, and that's keeping them from having suicidal thoughts and keeping them functioning in their job, they're not having a mood alteration from taking the pill. In other words, the pill is working later on in the brain, a period of hours after they take it, working on the neurotransmitter levels. So it really is trying to correct something that's not working.
Hmm.
With ketamine, there's speculation that it's creating new neural transmitters and creating new neural pathways. I think we're still speculating about
Hmm.
that. I don't know how solid the science is on that.
Yeah.
And you're getting a mood alteration. So basically people are feeling high. And if the dose is big enough, they're basically knocking themselves out into this extreme dissociative state, which in some cases can be scary, and in other cases they've stopped breathing.
Yeah.
So this is it's very different from something like an antidepressant. It's
Yeah.
very, very
I mean,
dangerous.
are the terms that are being used on this, like you said, where it's creating new neural pathways, and you hear
Yeah.
things like that, you're like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
wow." Is that
Sounds
also? I
good.
mean,
Sounds great.
is it
Yeah.
also to the level of credibility as drink this juice and the toxins will come out of your body? I mean, is it?
That's my
Yeah.
concern,
Mhm.
that we're using a lot of sciencey words, and maybe there have been a few small studies. Have there been large, really well done scientific studies to say, we know that this is benefiting for certain, that the benefits are holding up over time, and we're not just letting people get high with
Mhm.
something that perhaps alters their mood in a positive way during the hours that it's still actively in their system. But ketamine clears out of the system pretty fast, as I understand it.
Mhm.
And that's why it's used as an anesthetic in the operating room, because people can go under, they're unconscious. And then when the surgery's done, they stop the dosing and they clear up really quickly.
Yeah.
I had a surgery a couple weeks ago. I think I got some ketamine
Mhm.
along with a mixture of a couple other drugs. I read my records
Yeah.
and I was fine, came out and I was absolutely fine.
Sure.
But that's the difference between when you have a physician administering something that's well understood and has been used for years, or having a box of lozenges at home that you're supposed to take one and you decide you like to get high, so you take 10.
Yeah.
There's a real big difference
Yeah.
with how we're administering
I
this.
mean, is it helping anyone? I mean, I'm sure people can argue both ways on this to a certain extent, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to think long term, and I feel like
Yeah.
so many people are singly operating on short term because they need that fix because they need it because life is difficult as it is,
Yeah.
and people seem to be more on. I don't- Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's more of a kick these days of let's, check out, not death, but
Yeah.
like let's mentally check out. If it's, whether it's smoking weed or alcohol,
Yeah.
or I mean, I think weed's obviously gotten pretty big. I'm a user of it. I'm not saying it's bad, but yeah, it certainly kind of checks you out a little bit if you want to just kind of
Yeah.
calm down and not
Yeah.
worry about it. And it's less harmful than alcohol, I think I can argue, or most can argue. But
Yeah.
if there's another thing out there, and there's always other things out there that can do that same sort of thing, is it kind of a product of where we're at today, where people have just really made a habit regularly of checking out because of the
Yeah.
stresses of the world, rather than
Yeah.
finding healthy ways of dealing with them.
I think you're right. I think humans have probably always looked for substances to alter their
Hmm.
consciousness. Life has just always been hard, even back in the caveman days. Life
Sure.
was hard. So people have always been looking for ways to feel less stress. But what we've seen with cannabis, and I had a brain tumor about a decade ago and had some severe pain issues going on from that. And I was using legal cannabis at the time for medical purposes, for
Hmm.
pain control. So I'm
Yeah.
not anti cannabis at
Hmm.
all. But are there people who become psychologically dependent on it to the point that it harms them?
Hmm.
Yes, there are. And it's only maybe 10 to 15% of cannabis users. But I've got lots of friends who are using cannabis, and if they're only using it for sleep, it's helping them. If they're using it occasionally on the weekends, it's fine. It's not causing harm. But if there are some people who are smoking, basically taking breaks at work all day long,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't want your brain surgeon doing that,
Hmm.
and it does impair driving,
Hmm.
so I think with all this stuff, this is one of the things I try to work with people in therapy on, is really looking at what is your baseline mood state. And if your mood is really that disturbed that you're feeling throughout the day you need to smoke some dope, or you need to take ketamine every night, or you're just, in bad shape, it's like we need to look at some that are going on in your life,
Hmm.
what needs to change, how can you develop problem solving skills here, what are some healthy activities, whether it's, horseback riding or kayaking or hiking, other kinds of things you can do that are giving you healthy coping mechanisms so that you don't need this mood alteration all the time.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.